I'm with Caleb Humphreys, 19 years old, and your life has pretty much changed tonight, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what should be next, Mike and Rhiannon, is a rezoning meeting scheduled for next Monday, but that's no longer the case. Filling these seats inside the Sprint Center for the last Big 12 men's basketball tournament was both easy and quick. In fact, we broke a record. Good evening. I'm Lexi Sutter in for Amy Holly. A severe thunderstorm watch to our north. Let's send things over to meteorologist J.D. Rudd, who's tracking these storms.
This scene has turned from chaos to just the feeling is gone away. I mean, just tragic, emotional to see these people go in there and save lives and now learn that 2 of their peers are dead.
It has not rained anymore, but I think this is just a testament to how saturated the ground really is. This water has nowhere to go. A teacher from Blue Springs comes home from a beach vacation with disfiguring burns on her hand. Well, get a look yourself here. Here's what the hot dogs look like that were served tonight at the K, and we bought 40 of them. Well, Mike, understand this is a community and a neighborhood where people leave their doors unlocked. They leave their windows open. There were a couple noises in here and she was getting scared. That's a good thing to take note of for tonight with fireworks with pets, right?
Absolutely.
And that's not the only one in the Northland. Now, neighbors here told me they were just so surprised at how fast and swift this storm blew through. Everybody's wearing royal blue. How do we tell? Mike and Rhiannon, I think I need some of those big antlers so people know I'm a Royals fan, and we'll talk about that at 10 o'clock.
41 Action News reporter Lexi Sutter traveled more than 7,000 miles along with a guard.
Climbing aboard takes commitment before it ever takes flight. 7,000 miles from home, above the ocean and the jungle, the men and women of the Kansas Air National Guard have a critical job.
You know, weekend warriors. Not really. We're busy all the time.
A job
30,
much more important
20,
than they let on.
10.
They land in a place that looks like paradise. The beauty of Anderson Air Force Base doesn't begin to match its importance.
We do everything in Guam.
Colonel Samuel White left his family in Kansas City to oversee all flight operations.
Our job here is to assure our allies and deter any potential adversaries, which is why we have the Guard here 365 days a year.
The tiny island gives the U.S. a strategic presence in the Pacific. Here we work with allies like Japan and Australia, and we keep tabs on potential threats, China and North Korea.
I think I've been to Guam 3 or 4 times now.
Receiver stable. Okay.
For most of these people,
Roger.
Serving with the 190th Air Refueling Wing is a second job.
All right, start to roll out. The tanker is rolling out.
When Commander Jared Ramsey isn't on this tanker, he's flying a commercial jet. And Chief Von Burns is also Detective Burns with the Kansas City Police Department. And 20-year-old Carly Stahlbaumer, a KU student, putting her education on hold to wear this uniform.
Right, stable.
Crews spend hours in the sky.
Roger.
A show of force and power.
Stable.
This KC-135 is also a flying gas tank.
They don't go that far without us.
Senior Master Sergeant Brian Dillon operates the boom that refuels the fighters and the bombers.
We're always the guys that are just out of the spotlight,
giving them the gas they need to get across the globe.
There's a lot of people's lives in your hands, you know, the fact that the receiver could run out of fuel in the combat zone. You know, there are a lot of different things that, mid-air collisions, it's quite an orchestra of things going on.
No, Guam isn't the face of our country's biggest battle, but it requires a constant presence to keep us safe. It's a volunteer job full of sacrifice.
A little bit of side to side. Stable.
16 hours.
0-13-30, looking good.
Away from home.
Receivers.
Krista, Lewisburg superintendent tells me this district is struggling to just keep the lights on because of a new state law. They are losing money now that has already been budgeted for.
All right, ladies, here we go. On your mark.
Come on, Lewisburg! Middle school track meets like this are the core of communities like Lewisburg. Go, Avery! Mother Jackie Waldron can't imagine what the district will be like if extracurriculars are the next to go.
Why are we cutting so much from education? We're cutting from our future when we do that.
And in first place, Vincent from Lewisburg.
Last month, Kansas lawmakers announced a new funding formula which cuts Lewisburg state aid by nearly $300,000.
And here's our LOB budget.
Superintendent Brian Bierman says that money pays for things like athletes' uniforms, custodial work, and books in this library.
I worry about that.
He's now applying for money only given to schools with an extraordinary need.
We know we have tight budgets. The legislators don't want to have districts have high cash reserves, so we built a very tight budget, and now they're taking money from us.
Money Bierman already budgeted for. But an even higher bar he's facing, building a budget for next year. He has no idea if or when the district will be approved for that extra aid.
No school, especially small communities like Lewisburg, want to cut extracurricular and co-curricular activities. We've cut to the bone. I mean, now we're cutting to the heart.
Come on, Drake, get on your horse!
The heart of Lewisburg. Woo! Activities outside of the classroom that bring everyone together.
A lot of them play sports from the time they're in kindergarten all the way up, and then they get to the level where they finally can play for the school, and then it might not be there. I hope it doesn't come to that.
Now, this new law will be discussed in a Kansas courtroom next month, but if it sticks, Bierman says his district and likely many others across the state of Kansas will have to look at raising property taxes in order to make up those funds. Reporting live in Lewisburg, Lexi Sutter, 41 Action News.
It was a torturous time.
Chris Stuber's life tragically changed on May 25th, 2014.
I was not amputated by a doctor. I was amputated by her.
Stuber lost part of his leg, and even more painful, his wife, when they were riding their motorcycle and hit by an oncoming car. The driver of that car, Jamie Carter, was not only driving on a suspended license, but was under the influence of 5 prescription drugs and methamphetamine.
This isn't like just, oh, I did a dumb thing, I made a mistake. This is a pretty consistent thing that's been done for years and years and years. And so some of the disappointment in the court system is that somebody like that continually missed court dates, probation hearings, all kinds of things.
And Carter has a long record, including a prior meth conviction. But Leavenworth County Judge Gunnar Sunby gave Carter a $40,000 bond, an amount many in the legal community consider to be low for a manslaughter charge. Carter posted and was out free for months.
The fact that it was so easy to get out after killing my wife, taking my children's mother, and taking my leg. It surprised me how easy it was.
Stuber isn't the only one surprised by some of Judge Sunby's actions.
New at 10.
In February, our report about 57-year-old Lloyd Henson sparked questions and outrage from many of our viewers. Henson was convicted of his 10th DUI. Prosecutors argued for the maximum sentence of 1 year behind bars. Documents show Judge Sunby sentenced him to just 3 days in jail and less than 6 months of house arrest. Then there's Curtis Grice, who has more than a dozen theft-related convictions. The standard sentence in this case is 14 months. Judge Sunby gave the repeat offender just 60 days. I took my questions to the judge. He couldn't address pending cases, but did respond via email. In the case of Lloyd Henson, Sunby says he did give him the maximum sentence, but court records don't say the same thing. And for Curtis Grice, the judge said he gave Grice a shorter time behind bars because the jail was at capacity, and the cost of incarceration is just too high. Ultimately, criminal sentencing falls on the backs of state lawmakers.
If legislatures wanted to be more specific about how to handle those issues, legislatures could.
KU law professor Stephen Ware says the legislature creates this sentencing grid. So if someone has a problem, Ware says the blame is on lawmakers in Topeka, not necessarily the courts.
I think when judges are doing something that displeases lots of people, it's usually a sincere disagreement about what the law requires or what's the right way for a judge to exercise his or her discretion.
Some states write more defined laws and others are more vague. Ware says Kansas falls somewhere in the middle, giving judges more leeway, which explains why you may see harsher punishment in different parts of the state.
Customs develop differently in different places, and it might even be neighboring counties. It might even be 2 counties right next to each other. that the judges in one county tend to do things differently than the judges in another county.
For Stuber, his heartbreaking case is almost closed. Jamie Carter was convicted on all 3 charges and will be sentenced next month. But he still wonders, what if?
I'm not a prosecutor, a judge, or an attorney. It's just my opinion that this person, maybe had they been kept in like they should have been, that this never would have happened.
Judges in Leavenworth County are appointed by a judicial committee with final approval from the governor. But to keep their spot on the bench, you, the public, has a say. The next retention vote in Leavenworth is in November of 2016.